Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to yet another interesting webinar by TeamLease. This has kind of become a ritual for all of us every Tuesday between 11 to 12, and it's been about 30 weeks that we have been doing this webinar. We have quite an intense conversation here around taking views of experts on how we can enable the process of putting India back to work. Just like all the previous discussion we had so far, we have got an interesting mix of expert panelists. We have today with us Mr. Prashant Khullar. Mr. Prashant is Senior Vice President HR for Max Life Insurance. With 22 plus years of experience, Mr. Prashant has spent large part of, or maybe 20 plus years of experience in hospitality industry, working with companies like Mahindra Holidays as CHRO, Taj Hotels, Hayat Hotels Corporation, ITC, Four Seasons. We also have with us Mr. Paras Kaushik. Mr. Paras is CHRO, HT Media. Mr. Paras again have more than 18 plus years of experience working with companies like Motherson Group, Aditya Birla Group, and currently, heading the HR for HT Media. And last but not the least, we have Mr. Sriram. Mr. Sriram comes with experience of 27 plus years in technology space. He's worked with organizations like HCL, Hexaware Technologies, and currently leading a fintech company, BankBazaar.com. So welcome to all of you. Today we will have a lot of experience, rather diverse experience to talk about, and amongst today's panelists, it will be quite insightful for all of us. I would like to set some ground rules. As the Q&A session starts with the panelists, I'm sure all of you will have a lot of questions in your mind. And please feel free to put all of them in the Q&A tab instead of chat box, because that's the one we will monitor to put together all the questions so that we can respond to as many as possible. Now, without taking further, or rather without further delay, I would like to start with first set of questions. And my first question is that we are today talking about beyond business beyond COVID-19, reimagining people, process, and technology. And my question is that we are getting started, and what's the reflection of last few months? What has been the impact in your particular business and workforce? So, Mr. Prashant, can we start with you sharing your views on past few months?
Okay, Amit, thank you, and good morning, everybody. I think a couple of points, want to, probably start off the discussion is, number one, I think it's been a challenging time for the entire world. So the first comfort I think it gives any of us is we're not in it alone. Sometimes when a company is not doing well and you look around you and you see the world doing well, but why is it that we are stuck? That's not the situation. So we're all, pretty much in it together. I think what's happened between organizations, and we've always heard, things like great place to work, finest organizations, this organization has a great work culture over the other. What COVID has done in the last few months, it is, very humbly brought all of us at the same page, where some organizations took pride in a great work culture that, people want to come work with us. We have this amazing infrastructure and some of the finest benefits you can imagine. Much of that in today's context doesn't serve any purpose. We're all on the same page. And that same page today, Amit and everybody, has really advanced by 5 years. Some of the things, for example, work from home, while some companies took to it well a couple of years or maybe longer than that, many companies, including mine, which is largely a sales workforce of about 15,000 on-roll people and about hundreds of thousands, about 70,000 agents, we practically never imagined how would work from home ever happen. Eating a humble pie, where all of us today are working from home, where our business, like I was saying a little while ago, where months of March and April were difficult, today the insurance industry has started seeing growth. That's much because, perhaps the nature of the business. But the first thing, like I said, is we're all now on the same page. And today is a great opportunity for all leaders, people who work together to really, start a fresh chapter, write something that's never been written before. You mentioned, a little while ago, newness or innovation. This is the time when, our risk-taking ability is perhaps at the highest, because whatever it is, companies are asking people that make it happen. You need support, we will give you that support. But things that were never thought of in the past, today is the opportunity to be written and practiced for times to come. Is the first I think, in terms of how COVID has played a role. The other very important point I want to make before let everybody else come in is trust in the organization, has always been of paramount importance, largely between the employer and the employee. The employer's ability to trust the employee and the employee's, level of confidence and trust in the organization. Whilst there always is, today there's a bigger challenge in this new normal that we keep talking about. And I think work from home, many companies are adapting to the fact that will continue, even when everything eventually, comes back to normal, is creating trust between people. Trust between me and my employer is something that has always been of importance, but today me and my colleagues, because today I don't have the opportunity to go and sit with them for a cup of coffee or sit in a meeting room, let the energies flow, because you all appreciate that, there is so much flow of energy in a room where, you carry each other together. But how do you do that when somebody is sitting today in Himachal, somebody is in Gurgaon, somebody is in Mumbai, and all you see is people on the screen? How do you translate that energy? So that's where organizations need to step together to start building the trust between employees themselves when they're not in a physical environment together. So I'll take a pause, Amit, there, but that's my, little bit of opening to, I think, get us going.
No, great point. I think while pandemic has clearly divided, people between people who can work with phone and laptop, and there are people who work with hands and legs and they have to go out. But work from home has definitely, picked up. We will just have to see how the business continuity of work from home can reflect into, in productivity also. Paras, things in HT media or your industry would be quite different than what the other organizations would have experienced. What's your view on or what's your experience of last few months, and how do you reflect about the impact on business and workforce?
Sure. So where do I start? Okay. I think in the last 7-8 months, the world is transformed. We are faced with this very overwhelming, competing challenges and uncharted waters as we continue to navigate the impacts of this pandemic. In fact, I think we are approaching the fastest, the deepest, and the most consequential technological disruption as well. You see, all industries were impacted and have been impacted by COVID with varying degrees of severity. Some have stronger defenses, others struggle to return to the shifting new normal. Obviously, the consumer demand patterns have changed, supply chains got disrupted and remain under pressure, mainly also because a lot of regions, markets, states, governments, they are responding very uniquely to how to manage this crisis. Coming to HT Media, our business actually is classified as part of the essential services by virtue of being a media house. However, we got very severely hit by COVID-19, basically on 2 counts. One, our newspaper circulation dropped majorly. I know some of you might not be getting a newspaper even today. Fortunately, I'm getting mine, and I must assure all the participants here that there is no risk of spread of coronavirus through newspapers, so please get your daily copy. The second count is that our advertisements revenues dropped. Okay, dropped is a very soft word. They actually vanished. So actually the journey to recovery and reinvention continues at HT Media. And the only way to outmaneuver this uncertainty is by course correcting again and again as circumstances change. You know, on the people front, there has been some unprecedented workforce disruption. Virtually all companies are still determining how they will work in short or long term as workforce, and the communities try to function and perform in this struggling and coping with this pandemic. I would allude to the point that Prashant made. You know, in my opinion, when I reflect back, I think the greatest impact of COVID is that it has given each one of us an opportunity to turn massive challenges into meaningful change. Meaningful change that we've been wanting to do for some time. And I think the time has come, and many of that change, much of that change has already been implemented, and much will be implemented in the future. So over to you, Amit, with that remarks.
Thanks. I think pandemic like this, don't change, bring new trends, but amplify the ones which are already there. And I think what we were supposed to do in 10 years, we may have to do in 10 months. And Paras, you made a very important point that world has seen this a test on how technology is going to, play an important role for future. Sriram, you being in the fintech, space, and fintech is kind of much talked about in the financial services. How's been your, reflection of last 6 months, and how's the impact you have seen in your business and workforce?
Thank you, Amit. I think Paras and Prashant put it beautifully. See, what has happened, broadly outside, overall in the industry space, I think what nature has done is they have made all companies to undergo a master health checkup, right? What it essentially, many of us, this is what many companies do, certain age group beyond, as a welfare measure to make them go through. Because the companies are thinking they're very healthy and they will continue to do what they are, and market and everything externalities will be very similar. I think this master health checkup in the form of COVID has shown a report to every company, look, hey, this is how your technology is, this is how your processes are, this is how your BCP is, this is how your market is, right? So this is something I think is going to leave a very lasting, I would say, impact, which the companies will try to revisit. This is something very, this is across industry, right? People who are thinking they are on the safe harbor and probably will have the report in hand, and they may take a second opinion, third opinion, but the point is that, it has put in front of them. If given a chance, many of them wouldn't have gone for the master health checkup, which is generally the human nature, right? But when it was forced on you, it does prove many of our assumptions wrong. This is something I wanted to, and what it means is, the companies are going to do this as induced in a frequent manner. Many progressive companies are saying, hey, look, we found out a lot of things. Why should this be forced on us? Let's redo our whole audits and also various risk analysis, right? This is the first thing which has come up. The second thing is the COVID, as I said, forced us to do a master health checkup. It also put a big mirror in front of us and asked us to look at ourselves, because especially for the HR function, because we've been again thinking that, we are this height, this tall, this way, this beautiful, but the mirror now is showing probably many assumptions are not right. The functions which we thought are not critical have suddenly become critical. There are certain employees whom we thought their skill sets are not too critical are become critical, right? There are certain ways of doing risk analysis are proven wrong. So companies which are having HR processes which can which can withstand many of this time tested, right, and which are not off the cup, as we call it, as school behaviors, are not going to sustain. So this is, I would say, as I said, there are 2-3 things which the pandemic has done. One is forcing us to do a check and forcing us to sit and see ourselves that how ready, how dressed we are for a situation. Third and last thing which I think the COVID has done in breaking or probably leaving a powerful impact in all our life is to your readiness to change, right? We've been saying change is constant, change is important and all that. The point is, it's just shown which company is ready to change is the one is ready to, and also it's basically the elephants have to dance, as they say, right? So the bottom line is tomorrow, the denominator of a great company will not be based on the revenue or based on the margin. It will be based on your denominator is how agile they are, how quickly they can change. So I think these are the 3 tests I think the pandemic has put to us, right? They said the pandemic can be tested on oxygen, can be tested on your this and that. I think companies will be now tested on your agility to change. How will you make your workforce just not work from home, but how will you keep them motivated, like Prashant covered, I think Paras did indicate. Keep your force motivated. So you can't do only when pandemic happens, you can't react, right? Last point I wanted to, share and then, back to Amit is, we all thought if something is not okay in Mumbai, we will have a, tier 2 or a BCP in Bangalore if something is not in Bangalore. Or a few people said if it is not going to work out of California, we'll have a backup in Philippines. So this is something, right? We all had BCP centers all over the globe. We had BCP timings, we have BCP service, but I think those assumptions have been broken. First time we have to see if there is a stop and start, if there's a reboot, right? And what all could happen? I think, probably the whole risk framework across the organization is smashed, right? It's made irrelevant just by overnight on March 23rd. The whole risk framework is gone, right? It's there everywhere. The difference between a developed and underdeveloped countries are not very different, right? So these are the 4 things I would put it as a summary. I think makes organization to look at their health in various functions and various parameters. Second, it showed HR a mirror, a large, big mirror, how your processes are they strong to stand up, right? The third is that agility is going to be the denominator of assessing a company. And last but not the least is, I think the framework of continuity or risk is very different. It's going to be, and not only for organizations, even for HR. I think those are my learnings for the last 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the very important point. So, so Prashant, while these learnings have come in last 6 months now, we internally, term it as, that while we are oscillating, all of us are oscillating between fever and fear. Now, what's the road to recovery? I mean, how are we going to keep the people motivated? Because I think COVID is going to stay with us for some time, and I mean, we don't know whether we are in start, middle, or at the end of COVID. So, what do you think? The plan for road to recovery would be. What are the new normal that we all will have to come out of our comfort zone and move to the new normal? So, what's your thought on the?
I mean, I think that's a great question, and let me answer that in 2 parts. One is just sharing some of the practices, what we have done at our organization, and second, what looks to be the way forward. I think every organization has its own set of core values, a mission, and in our case, what we also call a purpose. And at Max Life, our purpose, the statement is, and why I'm sharing this because there is context to it, is to inspire people to increase the value of their lives. Okay. Now, being an insurance company, to inspire people to increase the value of their lives. Now, employees over here or the entire workforce is watching everybody in any organization very carefully. That all these values, purpose, mission statements at a time of crisis, good times, everybody can easily, and these are some really nice words to talk about. But I think true character stands out in terms of adversity, in times of adversity, that what does the organization do at that point of time? So first thing we decided, and let me tell you, it's not been easy for us because sometime around March, we were about 20% of the business we had, forecasted. And March is a very important month for every organization, pretty much globally. But at that point of time, we took some key decisions. We said, number one, we will, because of COVID, not take away people's jobs, all right? And give employees that comfort. That listen, we don't know what the situation of increasing your salaries, etc. By the way, we're one of those companies who ended up paying about 108% bonus in the month of May when situation was still thin. But when we say the purpose is to inspire people to increase the value of their lives, what is our workforce doing? They're actually inspiring people outside, the customer, that you must take insurance in times like these. Now, our internal policy was that for an employee who's a frontline sales executive at about a 3 lakh total fixed pay for the year, insurance usually companies pay about 2 times or 3 times for those people. And like any other, you see the number of deaths in the country which have gone. We've also had our share, some because of COVID, some not because of COVID, but young people and families are left behind, then with very little, means of resources. So where our minimum sum assured was 10 lakh for any case of where an employee passed away, we increased that to 20 lakh. So today, even the grassroots frontline employee, whose salary may be, 2.5 or 3 or 3.5 lakhs per annum, God forbid something happens to the individual, a family gets, 20 lakh insurance cover, gets the entire bonus for previous year, gets, future service liability up to the age of 50 years, to a very handsome package. So why I'm saying this is because the employees started believing that, here's this company which, when it spoke about values in its good times, is also talking about values and care for us, inspiring us also, or really, increasing the value of our lives also at a time like this, when the easiest thing to do is, sorry, we don't have a job for you. Or sorry, there's nothing, in it for tomorrow. So that's number one, what we've done. I think the second thing over here, I think rarely I've come across a company who can, say that, we've not done well over the last, 6 months. Every person I've spoken to says our productivity has gone up. Our employees are performing, much better. People have adopted technology, choice or no choice, I don't know. But I'm hearing very positive statements from the entire corporate world that, we have done well. Two things over here, and, I'll ask all of you to come in. I think where organizations need to step in, and this has been a personal learning, some very average performers, pre-COVID, let's go pre-COVID, who you were really questioning that, how will these people really continue to be a part of the organization? We've tried everything, coaching, we've mentored them, we've given them performance counseling, but their performance doesn't seem to be, coming forth. I see many of those people, up to about 80 to 90% of the people, their performance has turned around. And suddenly in the last 6 months, very average or below average performers have suddenly started performing through the roof. On the contrary, some of our brightest stars, the top performers, they struggled for a little bit. See, there are people who will thrive in a boardroom. There are people who will thrive in a meeting room. And then there are silent performers. So, today it's even for everybody. You don't have a meeting room to come and really talk about what you had to. This is the only platform available to everybody, like it or not. Organizations need to, moving forward, Amit, make sure that your top performers adapt to this very well. The bottom or the below average performers are also adapting to this well, helping people understand the nuances of working through, whether it's Microsoft Teams, whether it's Zoom, how do we collaborate, really hand-holding some of those things, driving values even in this new normal. We can't have a scenario where we say that, listen, values are okay till the time we were in office space, or some of those things played out very well till the time you were in a physical environment. Doesn't matter. the true character of the organization is at a time like this, when you continue to keep adapting and performing, turning your non-performers into performers and making sure your top performers continue to stay where they are. But that's been the experience really over the last few months, and how I see it kind of going forward. Stay true to your core values, stay true to your purpose.
That's a great point. I think how we care about employee in times like
Where Amit, we're unable to hear you. Your screen.
how the employer brand will be created, and I think if you don't treat our people well, organization. Am I audible now?
Yes, now I think you're audible.
Sure. I'm sorry. I think so. Prashant, you are right. I think times like this will define the difference between I mean, this is how the employer brands will be created. For future, Paras, but for many of us, I think I think last 6 months have personally been very, bad in terms of you don't have your loved newspaper in your hands every day morning, but at the same time, I think you were also were on a very tight rope. Of course, we have to, work along, how the impact has been. Plus, how do we keep the teams motivated with all of those things, around us? And what do you think, is the plan for road to recovery and the acceptance to technology? What's the new normal we will see in your industry?
Right. Firstly, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, great. So the road to recovery, number one, is a long one, for sure. Initially, we thought we'll recover soon, we'll recover next quarter. But I think it's very clear it's a long road to recovery. And we don't know what the end is going to look like. So we can only speculate and we can only talk about it and make some predictions. If we look here, basically there are three sets of actions or three clusters of actions that has helped us and possibly a lot of other organizations to this road to recovery. The first one is the very basic, the cliche, which is called communication. And trust me, I think it is the most immediate key to recovery. You may also call it, setting the right narrative within the organization, especially that the narrative needs to start from the top. Organizations that have focused on this open communication with the spirit of accountability have responded really well to the disaster. Let me give you some examples of this narrative, what I've learned from other organizations, and particularly what we did at HT Media. So this narrative is that even before the solutions are clear, the senior management offers assurance that they are guided by organizational values that Prashant talked about and that sense of purpose. In this narrative, they put some information, rather the same information in front of each and every employee, using some sort of evidence to guide their decisions. They encourage frank communication, they act decisively and admit that they don't know all the answers, they don't know all the solutions, and they are also learning on the go. It's also very critical that in this narrative, we empathize with the victims and even recognize the acts of heroism and celebrate that. And also make investments that signal that our belief in the mission and their people is ahead of all the financial consideration. I think this narrative is super critical because it builds a sense of belongingness between the teams and employees, a sense of engagement, and a sense of, we are in the same ship, fighting the same storm. Now that's first cluster, which is communication. The second cluster, if I look at, it involves collaboration and new initiatives. basically building cross-functional teams or solver groups. We have a couple of solver groups here, which work on critical matters, such as fixing gaps in supply chain, redeploying workers where they are most needed, or making changes in the product, the digital product, the apps that we have, or even finding newer ways of customer engagement. The third and the most important cluster is a set of activities which is oriented for the long-term future. You know, how will things be different? What needs and opportunities suggest innovation that could be developed now? Which of the crisis responses are likely to become permanent modes of action? It is imperative for organizations and leaders to devote a portion of their thinking beyond the crisis. Talking about that, call it big, hairy, audacious goal, you know, to transform and to innovate and when the worst will be over. We launched such future-oriented initiatives in parallel to the immediate crisis management and mitigation efforts. It helped increase the morale. It helped motivate our employees, as well as we could also define the future of our business. So, you know, these are the 3 sets of actions that we have taken, and I've seen other organizations in different ways taking, which will help them in planning for this road to recovery. And mind you, it's not only COVID, it is any disaster, any crisis where this will also be, you know, can be used and will be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think between the short-term crisis and long-term future, I think that balancing is definitely important.
Amit, you're not audible.
So, assets, right? I mean, loans and the full network. Okay. Okay, am I audible now?
Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sorry for this. So, Sriram, what I was mentioning was that you provide assets and loans, and I think the biggest asset for the organization really are people. How are you, you know, or your organization and industry, you think are undergoing this? And what are the steps that you think you are trying to take to cover this up in terms of the reflection and what the future would look like? Am I audible, Sriram?
Thank you, Amit. I think that's few highlights of it. Professionalism. You can't have that of. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Now, see, what this situation probably taught us is we cannot have a separate set of HR processes, policies for crisis situation alone. I think, you know, the processes has to be tested in such a way that it meets all circumstances. In a situation like this, a lot of people, you know, I think Prashant did touch it, that employee trust is very important. I also believe, taking it further, that trust cannot be built only during the crisis period. There has to be an edifice of trust on which you build 2 layers and aggressive layers during this time. In a crisis period, the employees immediately look up to the organization. Hey, look, how was my employer going to treat me, irrespective of the skill set, irrespective of who they are in the, you know, whichever part of the pyramid they are. What we did in BankBazaar is first, you know, start having very aggressive communication. When I say aggressive, you know, I would say more frequent, more elaborate, detailed communication, saying that no one will be left behind. That's the first message we gave. Look, we will all sail this together. No one's going to be left behind. it sort of brought down the anxiety big time, right? Few of these organizations who are forced to do it because of the type of business they are in and not applicable to BankBazaar. I'm saying the BFSI segment is doing very well, but there are certain segments, be it in maybe in hospitality or in travel, where they have to let go people. My advice to them, and when they approached me, that I advise them to say, look, call out openly and tell them, right? Because let's say you have to let go 5% of the jobs, 10% of the jobs or roles have become redundant. At least tell the 90% of the guys their jobs are not redundant, they're good. I think that is very important. People are very accommodative, people are very sensible, but what people want is transparency. What people want is someone to tell them to be less anxious. So when they are less anxious, they also think very strongly, very, very objectively. I think that's what we did. We just overdid. Almost on every day there was a communication. And we also started figuring out that when things were not physically, we were able to meet people, and there are a few people who had challenges with the internet connections. We've started forming smaller groups of some common interest or some common pattern, and the messages were circulated among them. Hey, look, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So essentially, right, two things I want to call out. One is, it's very important to immediately jump to the ship as a captain, and in that given time between March to, I would say, July, HR was the captain of the ship. Never in the history of my 30 years I have seen HR being almost acting as a COO, literally, right? Who has to work from home, how will they work from home? And I think HR had this huge limelight in given that period. HR, I think, given a situation, stay out the champ and be the captain of the ship and say, look, all of us are safe and we are sailing it together. That's a big thing. In my view, transparency and communication is very important. Then once we just settled by May, I think, business started coming back. April was the worst month. May was average, but from June, most of the business are, coming back. Today, I would say there are 3 sets of business benchmark to Feb, March of last year. There are businesses which are doing more than 100% of their Feb run rate, which predominantly the online education systems. They're actually doing because of compelled. And there are businesses which are at back to 80% of their Feb. Mostly, I would say, the BFSI segment, because especially the loans and the cards. And there are businesses which are at 60%. Only industries which are very badly impacted because of they need physical movements across countries, across states, they are at probably below that. But it's like that 60% and above in my assessment, and I talk to people. And so this also shows how the companies are ready to come back to the business line. Having said, so when we have a crisis, first thing we should know is crisis is going to pass by. But what we do then is going to stand. What we do at that point of time is going to stand long time in the organization, in the employee's mind. So we started doing a lot of things transparent. We said that everyone is safe. We even addressed that, what they will have to do there for their family. We gave COVID test free, right? At that time, when the COVID initial days, the tests were very expensive. People were not very comfortable to go take the test. One is their fear, second is cost. We said, if you have a suspicion, just go take the test. We will sponsor it. If someone had COVID, we gave them almost about 8 weeks paid holiday in addition to what they have. We just went about giving a lot of things that many of them will feel, they may not use it, but it's a huge comfort. And the last thing we did is we also figured out the most vulnerable group are the working women. We have about 45% of our workforce are women. And when women work from home, actually they do 3x the job. They do a job of their housewife. Most of them initially were stopping their maids. They also work as an employer. Now we figured out there's a lot of stress, right? And stress in the sense, they want, someone has to tell them, okay, all of us are going through the same. And I think, a woman at home is like 2x of a man, and I'm being very candid here, it's just true. And so we formed special groups. We also got counselors to frequently talk to them, professional counselors. because that's getting really stressed, right? They are working hard. They also have external work hours. They have children because their schools are off and their children have taught off online. So they are working men. So this is likewise, we figured out various groups which are a lot more stressed, I think, and that's where the HR actually comes into play to constantly look for, those type of signals that who needs help. If you can go around looking that who's looking vulnerable and keep communication going, I think these are my strong, I would say, if touch wood, grace God, such situation of crisis should not arise to the world. In case such things arise in some other form and shape, I would say that reassure to your workforce, stay very transparent, whatever you do, be very transparent, right? And look for people who are undergoing more stress and vulnerable and stand by them. These are the three things I would say, which I think we have done well. I won't say that we just came with a design, but it happened because of a lot of interactions and dialogue with various groups. We figured out these are things we have to do. I think we are as a company is doing exceptionally well in those fronts.
Absolutely. I think you put it very beautifully. Whether it's a good news, bad news, but if you are transparent, if you are over communicating, to people, I think, people are mature to understand. And
yes,
that's how the team bonding kind of, works out really, really well. Absolutely.
The employees are far mature than what we think. They read news, they interact a lot, they have their own social networks. So they know what an organization will do in such circumstances. What they need to know is from formal HR processes or from the CEO, rather than knowing from the grapevines, and leads to a lot of suspicion. So over communicating and taking them to confidence immensely helps.
Absolutely. So bang on. But Prashant, we also have, we also understand that, while virtual working has ensured the business continuity, we also need to run the business. So, I mean, and I'm sure working from home has also brought in some kind of challenges. What are some of the challenges that, your organization have faced, and, how do you think we are coping up with that amidst, trying to get back to work? So, Prashant, was I audible, or do you want me to repeat? Sorry, you're on mute.
Amit, I think I got most of your questions, so I'll answer this thing. I think I go back to the first statement that I made is what COVID has done is brought the world, or let's say organizations, even Steven, pretty much everybody now starting afresh, an opportunity to write a new, fresh chapter. Similar is the case with many employees globally. Like I said, there are some people who used to thrive on energy in meetings. Let's say somebody who's great at making presentations, in front of a group of people, and was perhaps rated amongst the best performers for that unique skill. It is indeed a unique skill, with all respect. Today, that opportunity doesn't exist. Okay, there is no boardroom. There is digital platforms available. There are people who were struggling for performance who suddenly turned around, and there are top players who've struggled. Now, one of the things is, of course, for the organization to step in and lay out certain guidelines and parameters that this is what is expected. In times like these, number one, or one of the top priorities is be very clear and explicit about expectations. That what does my manager or my manager's manager and the organization expect out of me? Most of the time there is a struggle, especially with this work from home, where expectations are not clear. It's not about the time you spend sitting in front of your laptop. It's not about everybody's talking about the fact that productivity has gone up. All that is fine as long as I know what is expected of me, no less, no more, and I will deliver it. Recognition becomes of paramount importance right now, because unlike where we had a meeting and I could call you out, give you a pat on the back saying well done, those opportunities are not there. So today employees, because of the time spent in front of the screen, there is, people will get tired. People will, after some time, start, there is fatigue which will start setting in. Organizations need to help set out this fatigue. And like I said, there are many best practices. However, that's where one needs to be careful. What Microsoft is doing today, or what Google, and I'm taking, deliberately names of some of the finance organizations we keep hearing about, that may not necessarily work for me. Just because somebody has decided to, set up home offices, maybe somebody can afford it. A company which is struggling for business may not be in a position to be able to afford it. But then communicating to people that, listen, this is what we can do, this is what we cannot do. Okay? But making expectations absolutely explicit and clear to people, number one. The other thing I think organizations moving forward will have to do very well is deciding, when is the time to work, when is the time to relax. Are we making, changes in our leave policies? We know today everybody wants to pack their bags, go on a holiday, but many people, either you don't have a place to go, places are shut, or people are not finding it, easy. How are we working along some of these benefits, to people, whether it's leave, whether it's some of the other benefits? For example, today, if I was to reward you with a voucher for a restaurant, it's practically of no use to you. 90% of the people today would still hesitate that, can I, are we making those subtle changes? Are we making, I mean, as part of our company, we run lots of contests. So sometimes you're going to Australia on a holiday, you're going on a reward trip to Turkey, whatever. All that is not happening. What happens? Are you going to sit today and say that, listen, the world is, right now closed. Sorry, this year I can't send you to Turkey. Sorry, I've done my job. I won the contest and I want my reward. Are you making those changes? Are we, as we move forward, aligning all this, that people don't have to wait that, okay, once this is over, then I will get what I deserve. No. Today are options being created. That, well, option one is you can use this next year or the year after when things are. Option two is this is what we have for you today. You can do that. So aligning all your people practices to what this is. We are very mindful that, listen, if this is to continue for the next, let's say 6 months or a year, maybe 2 years, we can't wait for some of our policies to come into effect after that. Today, we have to start making those changes for people. There is no tomorrow. This is tomorrow. This is what we're living in. We don't know what will be tomorrow. And many organizations that I hear from, work from home will become a ritual, will become a way of life. I don't think people will be expected to come to office for more than 2-3 days. So that's going to be important. And my last thing on this, Amit, is that today, and I think we're all very lucky in a way, my recruitment base is now suddenly the whole country. When I was working, in Bombay, we used to always, try and prefer that, okay, for this particular job, this particular role, this particular office, try and look for locals, people, where commute time is lesser. Even in Bombay, if our office was in Worli, we used to be very mindful, that somebody coming from Navi Mumbai, it will take 2 hours for the person to come. How will that person reach? And the person will not continue for more than 6 months because travel will eventually, get onto you. Today, that problem is not there. Today, sitting in Gurgaon, I don't mind whether I recruit from Hyderabad, whether I recruit from, Bangalore. Forget Worli and Navi Mumbai. Today in Mumbai, you can recruit from anywhere in the country or on the planet you want, because this is what is expected. And that's what we need to be mindful. No longer should it be that a person working in a Patna office or a Ranchi office should be from, Ranchi, could be from anywhere. That diversity today needs to open up and the option to be given to people, where we need to change our mindset, of location, because this serves, I think if everybody today is saying productivity has gone up, then why restrict? I would love to work for a company, based out of Hyderabad, sitting in Mumbai or a Gurgaon without having to go to Hyderabad. That's what people want today. So adapting to that.
Absolutely. In fact, we have hired 2 of our leaders, in this pandemic, but and people heading teams of 100, 200 people, they've never met them. As in physically, nobody has met, right? So, and it's been working quite smooth. So,
Amit, my only request is that, these new learnings, let's lose them when things get back to normal. Let's make sure we, keep this going, because this, even in whatever times when normality comes, should work for us, for everybody.
Absolutely. And more flexible we are towards our people and these new changes, I think better it is for all of us. Paras, what's been your, experience, and what are some challenges that you are facing, while working from home? Is business continuity as usual, but productivity is still a question. I mean, some of the industry have done really well, from a productivity perspective, but not all. So what's been your experience and view?
The first thing, Amit, is the fact that I also joined HT Media during the pandemic, and I'm not networking. So I'm also managing this whole virtual thing. But, on virtual working and the challenges, I think whether you want to look at these challenges pre-COVID or post-COVID, the challenges remain the same. What COVID has done actually, which almost no CIO, no CHRO, no CEO could do, is to ensure that all the cynics, the disbelievers, the naysayers of work from home model actually work from home, and not just for 1 or 2 weeks, but 5 to 7 months and maybe more. So for that, I am really thankful to COVID actually. You see, there are two sets of employees, one who believed in work from home, virtual working, and the ones who didn't. Now, the first set already knows how to work virtually. I've seen them practicing the fundamentals of good management, including establishing clear goals, running great meetings, communicating clearly, using the right set of online tools, leveraging team members, individuals or collective strengths. The second set, who were the disbelievers or the naysayers or who hadn't worked, the challenges emerged there. And there again, there are 3 sets of challenges, which the co-panelists did talk about in the previous half an hour or so. The first one is that of trust. Now you would agree that, trust is a key in any relationship. When employees trust their managers and believe they are working towards a shared vision, collaboration and engagement will happen naturally. But it's hard one in an environment where face-to-face interaction is a rarity. A shared mission, collaborative spirit, team building can instill that in remote working, which we try to do through various online platforms. The second challenge is that of communication. Actually, communication, if you look at it, is a key to the workplace, especially one where there are interactions over email, chat, calls, video conferencing, and to ensure a free flow of accurate information throughout the company structure means hiring the right set of people, fostering a communicative culture, and using the right tools on the job. Here, the challenge was which are the right tools for the job, because we were used to only using emails. Now we are saying, hey, you got to go on the chat-based system. You got to start using the bot frequently. You got to use collaboration tools, whiteboards, and whatnot. So those tools and the choice of tools was very important. And the third, which you talked about, is productivity. And low productivity is an obvious risk when employees work outside of a traditional office. In an environment where day-to-day oversight, some team members may not use their time wisely. Now that has been the concern of a lot of managers. So on the other hand, certain employees risk burnout, which Saad was talking about, when they work remotely due to the lack of boundaries of where the office work starts and the home work also starts or ends. So ensuring accountability, forming support structures, support groups, and developing some rituals, some standard operating procedures, rhythm of working helped us in increasing that productivity, which we've been training our employees for. So these 3 challenges and how we are trying to fix it.
I think that's very important to understand these points. Sriram, what's been your, view? I mean, I'm sure you would have also faced the challenges, because some of the industry that we support, and we support more than 65 different industry, while some industries were experiencing very different, challenges around, acquisition of resources and business continuity. Even if the organization wanted to grow, they were facing a lot of challenges, right? So how has been your experience? What are some challenges your organizations have faced? And, how are we coping up to get back on that?
Okay. Thanks, Amit. I think more than challenges, I see every challenge as an opportunity. I think Prashant spoke about Navi Mumbai, right, to Worli. I think that is a very interesting. And earlier the large organization used to say we are doing it in tier 2. We are setting up an office in tier 2 and all that. It is very redundant today. What we are seeing is a beautiful opportunity which BankBazaar is trying to pursue. We are putting a plan. What we are looking at is now we know that people can work from home. Now we know that people are equally or can be more productive. We are looking at certain segments of the society which we probably were not, optimize in the past. For example, we are looking at people who are differently abled, whom we were not able to, employ in large numbers in the past, because we were not sure whether our system work, all our tall buildings work, and so many other things. Today, if we know that this person can work from his own residence, we are looking at as a very forced choice of can we go and look for people who are differently abled, so that they can work from home, right? I think we just want to significantly participate in that. We're also looking at homemakers who can work only 3 hours, 4 hours a day. In the past, we had the same challenges, right? So we are looking at can we, employ them so that they can work from home. What we need to is only give the IT infrastructure to their residents. If we deliver, like any other employee, they can also deliver. There are so many qualified women who have become homemakers, and probably if some opportunity comes to them to be occupied only for 4 hours a day, they'll be more than happy. There's a large amount of talent lying there. So we are looking at these as opportunities, Amit, rather than a challenge, which has been long waiting, an aspiration as an organization, as an HR professional, as a company. Hey, what can we do to the society? These are all fantastic opportunities. Like Prashant said, distance is immaterial, where they are is immaterial. Therefore, why not look at a huge talent pool, which we wouldn't otherwise touch, right? So that's the first thing we are seeing as an opportunity. The second opportunity I see is the mid management, which are used to large scale handling people. There's a huge opportunity to train them that where to stop. They're all used to, in Indian culture, a very extended work hour model, right? They all stay late and they enjoy, to be there and work. But at home, you cannot extend the same model, right? If you need to, the manager has to understand, hey, we have to stop here because when you work from home, there are other things to do, right? If you continue with this space, I'm sure, I know whether Paras touched it, there will be fatigue very soon, right? So we need to, there is a lot of people are so enthused. They themselves are not able to draw the line. A lot of us, I know people in the panel also probably can reflect. Many of us are not able to draw the line because like, so there's a mail every minute. There is some message every minute. We tend to get into it. So training the middle management, making the middle management better, more empathetic to the new reality, the new normal as they call, is something I'm seeing as a huge opportunity. Last but not the least is redrawing the productivity metrics itself in the new model, right? What is the right metric? Are we being unfair, right? Are we being unfair to look for the same metric, or there's a scope to do a better metric because of there's no commute and this and that? So I'm being fair, all things being equal, being fair in a very participative matter. We can look at the productivity metrics itself. There is definitely, it calls for to come back to the drawing board and see, is that a metric what we had in the past is the same? right? People can write more codes, but at the same time, who are into project management can't because they have to have more time to interact everyone individually rather than doing. So product management teams are very different in this world, whereas a coding guy could be very different. A person who's working in a job which calls for coordinating between across functions is very different. So therefore, there is a huge scope for reorienting this workforce. So there are three things which I said. Let me summarize. The first is that an opportunity and challenges. I would say an opportunity is to look for um, these certain segments of the society which we haven't not done justice in the past. Huge opportunity stands before us. Why not we make use of it now? Because as Prashant called out beautifully, distance doesn't matter, where they are doesn't matter. Second, there's a huge opportunity to reorient managerial styles and make them more empathetic, especially the middle management. Third is to redraw the various metrics and productivity measures to make it futuristic, right? As many of you said, that there's a good portion of people can work from home. If they are productive, they'll say, why should we, unless we will come once a day, twice a day, but it will be an option. I think this is here to stay. In that case, we have to redo opportunity to redo various metrics. Therefore, the whole OKR or the key objectives, a lot can change. I think these are the three challenges, opportunities as I see, which calls for immediate attention.
I think it's important. So, maybe last question for the day before we get into some of the Q&A which is coming. Prashant, what are the key shifts in the HR function that needs to be made in the next decade? Are we looking at reimagining the role of HR while, of course, the current assisting is in the business continuity and fluidity with the new norms? Any key shifts you see?
Amit, I'll, whilst, much of it is, I think we're all still on the learning path. Anything said today, futuristic may or may not hold, true. That's, the first thing. So I think all of us are very mindful of, the learning journey than really predicting what's going to happen. But some of the things which are, unavoidable. Number one is, I think HR leaders will need to, have greater emphasis of not just understanding the business, but really forecasting how business will take shape. When I say forecasting, for example, alignment of roles. Now, every company is going to be mindful of its spends. HR will play a very key role in understanding and helping people align roles from the perspective that can today a quality, let's say my, IT head, for example, in my company, very recently we said that this person will now also lead quality. Similarly, a person, in another function, leader, will also handle an area which one may not have thought of before. It's like suddenly asking me today to, go and lead a sales function. I may or may not know, but how quickly will the organization get me ready? So, and this is not multi-skilling. Please understand that multi-skilling, this is, enhancing people's skills and asking people to be able to, lead larger responsibilities as we look into the future, number one. Number two, when it comes to hiring, people will need to be, upskilled, and that responsibility I think HR has in terms of educating people that there is no choice but for you to keep upskilling yourself. One is what the organization will do, which may or may not be enough, from the skilling point of view, but encouraging employees to start skilling themselves. We keep hearing about the gig economy. Some of it is here, some of it probably will come. But I think there's huge responsibility today on HR leaders to start preparing people for that future, what it looks like, which we keep hearing about. Otherwise, what happened like in COVID, suddenly we all advanced by 5 years. The next thing may advances by 10 years, and many people, are caught struggling that what do we do now when the number or size of jobs is going down, and what's expected is more skilled people to be working with different organizations at the same time. That is what we need to start doing today. Start preparing the workforce of this country with the new skills required, let's say in as early as 2 to 3 years from now. That's
So you're right. I think that's very important. Paras, what do you see happening in future? I'm sure we are. I mean, none of us are astrologers, so can predict. But this is your experience. Do you see any key shift in HR function in coming next decade? And how the future role of HR would be in assisting to business?
Amit, we are just trying to right now look at the next 10 weeks. You are asking me to look at the next 10 years. And thank you for asking that question. I'm positive. Yes, 10 years, what it will be looking like. I think it's important for us to first see that what will happen in 10 years. One thing definitely that's going to happen is automation, digitization, will call it AI, ML, IoT, BOT, call it whatever, but automation and digitization will be the biggest thing in the next 10 years. Now, when we look at that and the HR role, we have to look at, actually, in my opinion, HR jobs expected to rise over the decade are predicted basically around 5 themes. So I've written it down. I'll just share with you. And all of them will largely be driven with this digitization and automation. So the first theme will revolve around well-being. There was a time when well-being was more of a office perk, an annual checkup, 1 or 2 engagement sessions with some doctors or some yoga or some Zumba classes. But I think now employee wellness will become a business strategy. With this whole digital economy, which is always on ways of working, there will be a massive amount of stress at work, at your home place, and the added pressure of dealing with the pandemic and crisis such as this, which might arise in the next 10 years, is something that never been, important for our help, that the employees would need. So therefore, well-being will become significantly important. The second theme will be around organization trust. HR professionals are in a unique position to be the guardians, the custodians of the ethical and responsible workplaces. There will be so much proliferation of culture of data, where every decision will be based on data, where algorithms will be used. And so therefore, it increases that requirement and amplifies the need to create a system which is fair, transparent, and accountable with a human touch. The third theme will be around creativity and innovation. In the post-pandemic world, everything that has to go virtual will go virtual. From meetings to employee training to everything will be virtual. New HR roles will be created around these mandates. We might have trainers who only specialize in work from home training or virtual training. We might have VR immersion counselors who will help HR design departments, facilitate and personalize the massive scale of rollout. The fourth theme will revolve around data literacy. HR professionals should ensure that data literacy comes part of the organization culture. And HR jobs of the future need to exemplify evidence-based decisions. With organization network analysis, the ONA, which is already heated up, the whole human and network analysts are expected to emerge to do better understanding of the natural network. The last one will be where employees and machines will work together. And maybe the employees will have some machines, variables in them. So how do we team up, the humans and machines to lead the creation of new HR roles on cooperative working? The human machine teaming managers will be created to operate at the intersection of humans and machines, increasing cooperation rather than a competition between human and machines. So that's kind of collaboration. You see, these are the 5 themes. Everything I think will revolve around digitization and automation. And as HR, it will be important for us to keep that in the forefront, but not forgetting the core purpose of being employee advocates and having that human touch is the key.
You're right. So basically, technology becomes the heart, but we also have to keep the HR angle, work along with the same. So, Sriram, if you would want to, share your view on, what do you preempt next 10 years change in role of HR or any function, apart from the business continuity, which will always happen. What do you think is the key
Sure,
shifts?
sure. I probably will take some cue from what Parag said. I think technology is going to drive every process of HR, right? Right from hiring to induction today, it's happening. Like Parag said, he has joined during the COVID period. I'm sure the end process would have been in person or not in person rather, right? So everything is going to be, earlier the technology in HR space was to manage workflow, and it was to some extent used in the HR outsourcing space or the HR back office space. Now what will happen is everything will be front-ended by, a faceless, tech, right? So let's park it for a second. But I also wanted to read this in two dimensions. One dimension is, yes, it's very clear that technology is going to lead the role. So what happens to HR professionals? So HR professionals would add value to themselves and to the function only if they are becoming more and more specialist in what they are doing. The scope of generalists will go down significantly, right? So that is something, we're going to be very, very important. An HR partner's role will be a lot more, will be on counseling, right? We will get trained, counselors to become HR partners because that's where you need, right? So it's going to be more and more specialist function. In conjunction with what is happening because of COVID, we also have to see there is the labor code which has been passed by the government, right? So what it is going to have a huge impact in the HR space. So I'll see where I come from. First is I see a good percentage of workforce will now become flexi workforce or a fixed period workforce. This is coming and I think we need to accept it. Many times it's like employees also will feel, or the workforce also will feel that they're getting a fixed tenure. So is the employees, because they don't need to go through the stress of that, thinking and planning for every individual, right? So that is going to be the temp staffing, which probably comes in a different form now as, say earlier the temp staffing was only for a certain skill set. Now it will open up for all the skill set. So the labor code or the workers code which has come up, which is now passed, is going to change the HR function significantly, right? So that is something that which we need to think of. The employee relations function, which probably most of us don't talk much about because it's now confined to the manufacturing space, will undergo a huge change. The professionals there will have to reorient because of the various ways is now the unions are being looked at and various calibrations which have come in. So that's another segment of HR professionals or human resource professionals in the IR space will undergo a huge change futuristically. Last, as I said, is very important is the HR professionals have to become more and more technology savvy. I think they moved from technology aversion to technology comfort. Now they'll move technology comfort to technology savvy because of this. Because unless given two professionals in the HR space who's proactive with technology, when I say technology savvy, in problem solving using technology, in being innovative and being intuitive in using technology, will stand a longer distance. I think that is coming for the HR professionals. So to sum what I said, right, we need to read the pandemic situation along with what has come as a law. Therefore, it is going to redo certain functions. HR professionals are going to become more and more specialists rather than generalists. As everyone called out, technology will be the front end. So the faceless has to find a reason for the face. It's going to significantly change. In nutshell, if you ask me, in this whole COVID, there are three functions which has impacted hugely. One is the logistics or supply chain functions. So they are going through a huge understanding. Second function which is going through is the risk function or the risk teams which are redoing their whole frameworks. And third is our own HR function, which when there is no human resource to physically see, right, physically have, in a workplace, technically there is no roof. What is that function is going to do, right? So it's going to redraw everything, right? So it's basically now the whole HR seems to be an HR back office outsourced. From there, how will you come to the front end is going to be a very challenging move. That will happen only because of two things: that HR is becoming more and more subject matter expert by specializing themselves. Two, by becoming technology savvy, from moving from technology comfort to a technology savvy level, so that they can give people solutions to the organizations in a proactive way. That's my view of what is changing.
Great. Great. So thanks a lot for detailed closure on this, Sriram. I think all the points were really important and valid. So I will quickly take on some of the questions. Of course, some of them are being posted here and some of have come from our YouTube, which is going live. So maybe, one of you can take the question. So I think one of the question which Prashant has already replied, if Sriram or Paras would want to add, it came from Viprashish Roy saying, given that human capital is the biggest asset for any organization, what are the new hiring norms and commitments towards retention? So Paras, Sriram, any one of you want to pick up this?
Paras, I'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, you go, please.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, I think at least for BankBazaar, we have clearly mentioned that we are looking at, either two, segments we haven't, tapped. There's a huge talent, huge skill, a very high level of talent available, which we are not able to, we didn't have the, I think, mind share till now to go on and approach it. Now COVID has given mirror to us. So we are going to look at people like differently able homemakers and what are all the new segments we can think of. So that's going to be a huge change in the talent pipeline, I would say, right? So location is immaterial. So that's going to be the huge thing. I believe this is not in respect to BankBazaar, but as an industry, because of because of the labor code, the wage codes, the rules, change in rules, there'll be a lot of outsourcing of skill sets will happen, because now outsourcing is now applicable to all skill sets, just not at junior level. I'm aware of large organizations, MNCs, which hire CEOs on fixed tenures. So I think that's going to now come across. I think outsourcing of the talent pool so that they can happen. The gig employees will now also become not only to supply chain. I think you will get gig employees in all state of work, to be technology, be it even in a human resource. You will find someone who is a payroll expert, who probably can be available to you for a fixed period, for fixed work. So I think there's a lot of transformation facing because of COVID, made us to think differently. Thanks, Debashish, for asking that very illuminating question. Well, there is so many thoughts on those space, but I see immediate changes coming, that talent pipeline, which was restrictive earlier because of artificially put barriers like location and all that, will explode. Now the talent pipeline will become huge. It's good for the employees and good for the employers.
Should I take a break?
Sorry, one of the questions have come for you.
Is there any other question? I just have a point on this one on hiring.
Please.
Yeah, so a very interesting question. So when you look at norms or standards, they will possibly remain the same. You would still want, as Prashant has said in the Q&A, that you would want the best guy for the job, right? But there's a big shift that's going to happen. Is that from bringing people for work, organizations will have to take work to people. And let me explain that. As we've done that here at HT Media, and I'm sure a lot of organizations already done it, that as we are reconstructing how we will work, one thing that we are carrying out is that we are reclassifying roles. And basically, we are reclassifying them in 3 major categories. One is fully remote, who need not even come to office. Second is a hybrid remote, maybe once a month, once a week, once a quarter or whatever. And the third is on-site, who cannot work from home. So these are the 3 broad categories. Now, if you look at the first 2 categories, upskilling is critical, but talent sourcing has become far more easier. Since the pool of talent available would have fewer geographical constraints, as Navi Mumbai and Worli was discussed. I've been in Bombay, and I understand that. The thing is that talented people now could live in any city of their choice, and may come at a lower cost, because now what will happen is even the compensation and benefits will go through a change. We will not look at in India, generally speaking, HR people would agree, we never thought about the cost of living of Bangalore versus Bombay versus Delhi. Cost of living in India was treated as one, and we would have the similar salaries across. Now, WFH, which is work from home or work from hometown or work from anywhere, will have impact. We will start looking at, if the guy is working out of Shimla or Jaipur or Jodhpur, what compensation he or she should be getting. Maybe he might be doing the same job that a guy in Gurgaon or Delhi and Bombay is doing. So those kind of issues will come up. Secondly, a lot of benefits, allowances will be staple for work from home or work from anywhere, virtual working employees. So those kind of issues will come up in the whole hiring space, is my brief submission on this point.
Right. So, a follow-up question on this, what should be the HR's approach if the employee insists on working from home due to family concerns for safety?
Amit, we can't hear you, but I kind of get your question.
Amit, we can't hear you at all.
I think the question is what HR should do if an employee insists on
Working from
home due to either could be age or having some ailments, or could be even pure because of fear. So probably I can invite one of the panel member, Prashant. Do you want to take that question?
Okay. Let me take that.
Yes, please do.
Sriram.
Yes.
Let me take that.
Yes.
We at HT Media, we worked and we figured out archetypes, job archetypes, which again got classified into work from home, work from office, or roster, which is the hybrid model. We've communicated that to our employees. Now, this has become a standard in the job description. We've communicated to our recruiters that when they are finding for talent, they should very clearly say, this is an on-site job, this is a work from home job, or this is a roster job. That's point number 1. So employees, candidates have full clarity before they apply for the job. On that, we have juxtaposed the employee preferences. The employee preferences that I want to continue working from home, or I want to only work from office and not work from home. It can be either ways, have been now juxtaposed on these archetypes. And discretionary, we are taking decisions around that. Now, even at pre-COVID levels, pre-COVID, we had similar requests coming in. And again, we were discretionary saying, okay, fine, we understand your situation, you can work from home for a certain period of time. But as soon as an employee insists he wants to work from home, then we also need to say that this is the job that you can do work from home. This job you'll have to come to office. And those are the discussions we are having with few of the employees. They are a handful, but we are resolving that from that angle.
Thank you, Paras. Prashant, you wanted to address that question? If an employee insists on working from home, what will be your, direction to the companies?
So let me tell you what we've done. Sorry, I think to be a part of another meeting. So, but I'll answer this question. So we've actually had these questions, come up to us over the last, because, we have about 450 offices across and about 15,000 on-roll employees. Now, whilst it's easy to keep the corporate office, our head office in Gurgaon, which hosts about close to 2,500-3,000 people, shut. And we know it will continue to remain shut till about end of December, because work from home is working. Branch offices, sales, where, when the government allowed it up to 50% people, allowed on roster, a lot of people, expressed, their, let me tell you what we did. So we had a digital solution around this, our mobile employee app. We enhanced it with a feature where each employee was asked to go and submit details. The first question being, am I comfortable returning to office or not? So we said that the moment somebody says that I am not comfortable for whatever reasons, largely being that of health and care for family, no questions asked, please continue to work from home. This was our first step. And like I said, right or wrong, I don't know, because we were also learning. However, what we realized was there were more requests to actually come to office, because people said, you know what, we live in small houses, or I am sharing my accommodation with somebody, the Wi-Fi, bandwidth is not enough. It's far easier for me to be more productive from office if safety, measures are taken than to. So we actually had requests coming from people to be able to want to work from office. So what we did was had the highest levels of safety, okay, and also ensuring that there's a roster, that if you're coming today, then you're not required to come for the next few days, whatever, and we did that. So our problem was actually unique, where more people wanted to come. But if somebody has said that I'm not comfortable coming to work, you don't have to come to work. At least that's it for now. There is currently work happening where we are speaking to all our leaders that what are roles. Like Paras, I think, mentioned it absolutely correct. Roles have to be defined, that these roles can work from remotely, where you're not required to come at all. And some roles where, a hybrid model where one is expected, to come to work. But frankly, what I've learned over the last, 3 or 4 months, including sales, which is, where, face-to-face mostly, there is nothing really that can't happen, through these virtual interactions, than. So the sooner we get used to this and the sooner, people accept it, I think would be better for everyone. That's my say on this.
Thanks, Prashant. The way I see this is like this. In my organization, all jobs are doable from home. For some reasons, in case if you open office and in a situation where the employee insists that he or she cannot come to work, it is fine as far as they are fully productive. If they are not becoming productive, then we have to see whether the reasons is because of organization related issue or it is an individual related issue. If it is an individual related issue, we probably as HR has to step in and ask counsel, or probably we can ask them to go on leave or readjust. Right? If it is organization issue, we have to fix the problem. So it's a question of that, it boils down to that. I think, probably like Media, Paras has done a great job in identifying that, what is can be done from home and what cannot. I think in my fintech type of setup, which is largely tech, entire setup is working from home. Look, we are fairly productive. We're actually more productive now. So we are happy about it. In such a situation arises, this is how I will approach that, why is the person not able to work from home? If there's a genuine problem, we would like to support them. We would like to go with what they say actually and be supportive. But we have to see the case to the root. And if there is some other problem, we need to interfere. That's the way I see. Over to you, Amit.
Great. Firstly, sorry for all the internet issues. I think that's one of the challenges we have identified for sure. for working from home, and I'm sure as a country we'll fix that. And thank you for all of you. I think we are done with the questions. Thank you all of you for taking out time today and coming on this panel. It was pleasure having all of you, and thank you to all our audience, on Zoom, YouTube. Thank you for being with us. I look forward to meet you again next week. Thanks, Prashant. Thanks, Paras. Thanks, Sriram. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.